DJ, PK, and Barry Tramel joins us once again to talk all things Big 12 football. Barry Tramel, of course, covering the league for decades, sports columnist for the Tulsa World. Barry, welcome back to the show.
Well, how you guys doing in Salt Lake? I hear you got into heated debate.
And you're here for heated debates. Let's get into it, Barry. What'd you hear and what do you think?
Oh, well. I didn't get the subject matter or even the what the parameters were. But
he told him he was late because we were in a heated debate. We were talking about
coaching. We're
talking about
proven commodities,
slam dunks. Yeah, Franklin gets fired.
Dunks.
So,
now slam dunks is a good one.
Yeah,
it's a very Tramel seal of approval.
I can think of two.
Mm-hmm.
One of them coached in the fine city of Salt Lake for quite a while, or for a little while.
Urban Meyer.
That's the only two. Him and Saban are the only two I can think of.
That's what we said. Yeah. That was my point, is they fired James Franklin, and who are they going to get that is a lock to be better? We're talking about, okay, we understand Florida State, we understand Florida, and some of these other guys, places that have been fired. But Franklin, it just seems like it's a roulette wheel, and wherever the little ball stops, if that's your name, then you get the job.
Yeah. The answer is they're not getting anybody that's a sure thing. They're not getting anybody that's going to be a home run. What we got, I don't know if we've talked about this, but what we've got is we've got a cult going on. The cult of coaches. Just the belief that one guy can save us. And it's really not a football thing. It's really not a sports thing. It's not even an American society thing. It's worldwide, and it's been around forever. This idea that we got to pay this guy $15 million because he's the only guy that can save us.
Right.
That's just madness. I've been telling people forever. We got way more good coaches in America than we do good football jobs. So why are you paying them so much money? There's a guy down the street just as good who you can pay, 3/4 of that for, and go buy yourself some linebackers and wide receivers that'll make a difference on Saturday.
Especially now, yeah.
I'm really waiting for that to take hold, and that doesn't seem to be taking hold.
So the players make more than the coach?
All these guys. Well, it's pro sports. That's what happens in pro sports.
Yeah, I know.
If college is pro sports, when do we get to that? Because that seems obvious, but that's not the way we're going. There's at least, we were just reading a story that set us off on this. I saw a story that 4 coaches now have leveraged the Penn State vacancy to get extensions. Maybe they were serious candidates, maybe they weren't, but the schools were scared enough they gave them more years and more money.
Well, and you know what? And they're scared that coaches are going to leave, and some of these administrators think it'll alienate their fan base and whatnot. I remember, what year was it? I was in Kansas City. I can remember my hotel room in Kansas City. I think it must have been 2002, maybe 2002. It's Bob Stoops' 4th year, and he'd won a title in his 2nd year, got close to making the championship game in his 3rd year, had another great year in his 4th year. And the Florida job, I think it was, came open again. And, of course, he came from Florida. Everybody was always worried he's going to leave. And Bob really didn't do anything wrong. I mean, he never, as far as I know, he never really leveraged in any kind of meaningful way what we're seeing today. But hot and heavy story. Bob Stoops is going to go to Florida or might go to Florida. And I wrote a column that said, listen, we all love Bob Stoops. He's done great, blah, blah, blah. But if he goes, he goes. If he wants to go to Florida, you got to let him go and tell the entire nation, hey, Oklahoma football is bigger than Bob Stoops. And this is, right on the cusp of the Big 12 championship game. And anytime you write something like that, of course, half the state just goes into a tizzy because you're affecting the psyche of the young lads in the shoulder pads. And you can't believe the positive response I got from that.
Oh, yeah?
All kinds of people emailed me that night, the next morning, saying, that's exactly right. This is crazy. If he wants to go, let him go. We love him, but if he wants to go, I think some of this is false alarm on the part of administrators. On this, just we got to keep this coach. We got to have that coach.
Okay.
The cult of coaching is a lot of it emanates from the university itself.
How about half the ADs have the sweetest job they're ever going to have, and if they make a misstep on a coach, they're not going to get to hire another coach, and that's where the panic comes from. And not only ADs but presidents.
Yeah, you could be. That could be right. That could be part of it. No doubt about it. We've seen. We only lost one AD this season. Woodward down at LSU. Is he the only guy that's been fired and sent out the door with the coach? Can't remember. But it's just nuts, and it's not that way in the NFL. It's not that way. Every once in a while, somebody like Belichick stays forever, and then you have fiefdoms and kingdoms and Game of Thrones stuff going on. But otherwise, hey pal, we're paying you a lot of money. Win football games, or the next guy's going to get the chance to.
Yeah,
and that's just the way it works.
I would say that of the slam dunks, I went to Kalen DeBoer because he's 121-17 or something like that. That is
pretty good.
A phenomenal, and he's won at the NAIA level. He won in the Mountain West with Washington and now Alabama. He was at Fresno State in the Mountain West, and that guy doesn't seem to fall down. That bad year, that time he went 9-3 at Fresno State, that was terrible.
Well, and that's a good point. And if you're going to extend the line that far, we might need to go to Kurt Signetti. It's my understanding that he wins a lot. You can Google it up.
Yep.
So it's interesting because Signetti and DeBoer are from the family of. Yeah, he hasn't coached at big time places, but he's won everywhere he goes.
Would you put Willie Fritz? Would you put Willie Fritz in that group?
He's not quite as high, but I would put him in that group because he has done a great job. To me, it goes back to the MAC. In fact, I was sitting down thinking about writing about this today. I was going to tell OSU to go shopping at the MAC store for a coach because all kinds of people have turned their programs around and had long, great runs because they went and hired a MAC coach, Gary Pinkel at Missouri, Matt Campbell at Iowa State. This guy hadn't won big, but P.J. Fleck at Minnesota has been their best coach since Murray Warmath or somebody. And then was somebody else? Urban at Utah.
Urban Meyer and Rick Majerus, both hired by Chris Hill, so you can call Chris Hill and get a quote on those.
And then there's one more. There's one more. Lance Leipold at Kansas, Miracle Man. However, it's looking like all the candidates are coming from the American Conference this year. You got 5 prime candidates, not counting the coaches at Army and Navy who really don't fit anywhere. But anyway, I think rather than going after somebody that's won big at, like Lincoln at Oklahoma going to USC, Brian Kelly at Notre Dame going to LSU. In the MAC, it's egalitarian. Everybody's living the same life. You got the same resources. Akron and Kent State maybe a little bit less than anybody, but everybody else is on the same plane. And you got the same opportunity, and it's almost like the video game. Everybody's got the same console. And the best coaches win. And that seems to me to be a pretty good plan to go, a good place to go and have a plan, is go someplace where the coach is proven. To quote Bum Phillips talking about Don Shula, he said, when he said he can take urine and he can take hisn and beat urine, or he can take urine and beat hisn. So getting a guy that can just flat coach doesn't seem like a terrible idea.
We have a high school coach in our community. His record is 110 wins and 9 losses. Is that pretty good?
Well, it seems pretty good. I'd have to know the particulars. Let me ask you guys, Utah high school football. are the final scores. I don't care. Forget the win, who's winning, and whatnot. Just looking at the scores, are they totally out of control?
In what way?
In terms of, we have a bunch of 69-7 games at the high level.
They can be
like in
lopsided.
the highest levels.
We have open enrollment, so if you're at one public school, you can go to another. And so that leads, especially, we have 6 classes, and in the biggest class especially, you see the best players congregating at a handful of programs. And over time, that's changed, but that's been an ongoing story for the 30 years that PK and I have worked here. Different schools, it was Skyline, it was Bingham, it's Corner Canyon, it's Sky Ridge, Lone Peak, whatever. It's different schools, but that's when you get to the smaller classes like 4A and 5A, I think you see a little less of that. And you see some better games and more competition and more drama.
Well, we don't have 30 years of free agency, but we're coming up on 10 or so. It's just getting bad, and I mean, we got pretty good team. We got the best team in the state. They're beating people 72-3.
Yeah.
So, I mean, pretty good teams, and so I don't know. It's not the kind of athletic competition that interests me.
You got to know Mike Leach well, didn't you?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Well, this guy is 110-9. He's a disciple of Mike Leach because Mike, he went to BYU. His family all lives in town still. And so he used to come back in the summers when he was at Tech because his high school buddy was a high school coach. And the coach, who's 110-9, was the offensive coordinator. And so Mike would teach these guys the offensive philosophies that he had. And now at the time he was a young man, now he's in his 40s, learned at the foot of Mike Leach, and then has gone on and has won 110 games and has only lost 9. My wife taught at the school for many years, so I know the guy really well. And then Jackson Dart and what's the kid? Zach Wilson, they were there. His quarterbacks, just to give you a reference point. So the philosophies of Mike Leach, and obviously he died way too young, still lives on in high school football in Utah. Interesting story.
Let me ask you guys. I hadn't really thought about this, and I haven't studied it, but when Leach came around and went to Tech in 2000, my memory is that he did a whole lot of fourth down, not punting. 4th and 3 from zone 38. He went for it quite a bit. Is he the father of the newfangled analytics of don't punt unless you really have to?
Yeah, I think you can make that argument. I certainly can't throw out anybody else.
No, I can't either.
Right.
I hadn't even thought of that. I always thought that was the best way to go. Because if I'm watching a football game where I have a vested interest, I want one team to win. And the other team has the ball at midfield, let's say third quarter, close game. It's not a pivotal point in the game. 4th and 3 at midfield. The other team has the ball. What do you want that team to do? You want them to go for it or punt?
Well, the new phrase these days is complementary football, so what's the level of your defense? If you have zero confidence in your defense, you ought to go for it. But if you think your punter's decent and your defense is decent, you can get the ball back at the 50 with a new set of downs in 3 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's true. But if I'm playing defense right there, I want them to punt.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no question.
You want them to punt. Give me the ball.
Yeah. I agree.
So why would a team, unless you're just not any good on offense, why would you punt? The other team wants you. Why were you doing what the other team wants? I think a lot of the new analytics is not numbers based as much as just common sense. We finally figured out we don't have to act like the masses. We don't have to do what everybody else does.
Right.
We can sort of think for ourselves.
I like that, but I think the bigger question, and we had it here with Utah and BYU, is you've got 4th and 3 on the 28-yard line. Do you go for a field goal or do you go for the first down? And the Utes went for first downs, and they didn't get them. And theoretically, you don't know what's going to happen, but theoretically, they left points out on the field, and then they lose by 3. And then the next week, they come back, and Kyle Whittingham is basically taunting us in the crowd. You think you know more than analytics? You don't. And as the thing is winding up, they give you 15. You get 2 minutes on Tuesday to talk to them, and you get 15 minutes on Monday, and then you get about 7 to 10 minutes after the game. That's pretty much the way it is in terms of how they've regulated his accessibility to the media. And I guess he does a coach's show. I don't listen to it. But anyway, he does that. And so as that thing is winding up on Monday, if any of you want to go check the analytics, come with me right now. And that's about as what's the word? Fiery or confrontational, maybe, is
combative.
A better word. Combative that he gets these days. He'll be 66 a week from today, I think. So he's got it made in the shade. Obviously, he's not going to get fired. But he was willing to die on that hill that analytics says you go for it. And they didn't get it multiple times, and then they ended up leaving points potentially. A field goal could have been blocked, returned for a touchdown. Who knows?
Missed.
But it could obviously have been missed. But that was his. I think that's the bigger issue. What do you do in that situation as opposed to that? Yeah, go for it at midfield. But when you have an opportunity to have a realistic field goal to put points on the board, what do you do then?
Yeah, it's a better argument in the NFL. Be a better debate because part of it is assured. You're going to make the field goal. You know, if you got a kicker that can't make a 46-yard field goal, then next week you'll have a different kicker who can.
Right.
So, but in college it does get a little squirrely. You know, I went to a football game 2 weeks ago where a team kicked 110, 160, 201 yards worth of field goals. 4 field goals, 40, 51, 55, 55.
Nice.
And they won the game by, 6 points. So if you got a kicker, it's a wonderful weapon. I don't blame sometimes getting the points. But I enjoy the modern football because it's not automatic. Because people aren't just saying, well, we're going to punt. 4th down, we're on the minus side of the field, we got to punt.
I agree.
I think it's fun to we've gotten a crust out of coaches' eyes, and they're starting to do different things, and I like that.
Barry, we got to run. We appreciate it as always, and we will talk to you again next week.
All right, guys. See you later.
There's Barry Tramel, Tulsa World columnist, longtime college football writer and columnist. Coming up, Riley Jensen, our college football expert, talking about the local teams. We'll get Riley's take on Texas Tech and BYU in a potential rematch. Stay with us. That's next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's game week for the Utes, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. After a much-needed week off, Kyle Whittingham and the Utes get set for the final 3 games of the season, starting with a trip to Waco for a battle against Baylor. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Utah football. Then catch college football Saturday game day at 10 a.m. with the postgame show immediately following the game on KSLSports.com.
Let's go then. Let's go, baby.
Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Our local team's getting a little pub. We got questions up on our Facebook page, DJ and PK. Can the Mammoths sustain this? Yes, because they've cooled off. But as you pointed out, PK, they don't write those stories in 5 minutes. Probably wrote that when they're up in first place, tied with Colorado.
Right.
And now they're in the middle of 10 teams bunched in the middle of the Western Conference, separated by about 3 points.
Well, the fact they're in the middle is good enough for now.
It is. And they played way more road games than home games.
That's a fact.
11 away and 6 at home. So as those numbers tighten up, maybe they get on a hot stretch here. Maybe they separate from some of these teams. Young guys who are getting better, acquisitions who ought to get used to being with the team. J.J. Peterka seems pretty comfortable.
Yeah, and you ought to incorporate him. And Bear was not messing around, but experimenting with lines.
Trying to find a spark after a slow start to that game.
Right.
DJ PK, we're joined now by Riley Jensen, our college football insider. Riley, good morning.
My dudes, what's happening?
Well, I don't want to talk to you as college football insider. I want to talk to you as an NFL fan now. Switch hats.
Awesome.
You've watched a lot of NFL football over the years, and we all know in these division things that sometimes teams split, right? There are sweeps, and bad teams get swept and all that, but sometimes there's splits. Do you think if Utah or BYU gets a second shot at Texas Tech, that either one of them or both could split? Maybe it won't come to that. Maybe neither of them get a second shot at it. But if they do, could they pull that off? Or from what you've seen in these first two games, is Texas Tech going to go to that title game and win that title game regardless of who they play?
I feel I totally get what you're saying, and it happens from time to time in high school football as well, where you end up playing a team twice. It happens in Little League football all the time. It is very difficult to beat a team twice unless you're pretty dominant, and that's where I'm going with this. I would love to see BYU or Utah get another shot at them because I think it would be much closer. But I for some reason, I just feel like Texas Tech's too good. Like I feel like they'll win that game. But man, if there was any possible way for Utah or BYU to get into that game, it's going to be closer, and it's going to come down to a couple possession game, and Texas Tech is going to have to make those plays. Now, Texas Tech has been in a game where there's a lot of pressure on them. Later in the game. Against Arizona State, they weren't able to pull it off. And so what you really want to do with Texas Tech is you want to see if you can get ahead of them and see how they react to that. Because I think they've been pretty dominant when they've been ahead. But when they're in a game and they give a team confidence, that's the only time that they've really struggled all year. But that's a really good football team, And not because I'm looking at their skill positions and going, wow, this is just – it's because of up front. It's because of their O-line and their D-line. Those guys they win so many battles.
Yeah, no question about that. Obviously, the Cougars on offense didn't get the job done, and it was by far their worst effort. And they got the freshman quarterback and all. And I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to key in on the word that I'm going to use, and the word I'm going to use is rattled. Did you see Bear and Bachmeier at all be rattled? Obviously, they didn't play well, but I think there's a difference between not playing well and being rattled.
So I don't know if the exact word is rattled. He saw some things that he's never seen before.
Right, because I don't think he was rattled.
I don't think he was rattled. I think my look at him on the sideline and some of the different things that were going on was, ooh, this is different. And I need to learn. Like, I felt like he went immediately into learning mode. And I kind of like that about him. And there's not a tougher kid. And I think this was more what I was expecting against other teams, not just the best team that they were going to play against. And there were some things in this game that were they were just different looks. And some of the things that, I could go into on the nuanced different looks, I mean, they would have been hard for me as a senior, some of the looks that Texas Tech was throwing. Now, I'm not trying to compare myself to Bear. Bear's a much better quarterback than me, but even as a senior quarterback at Utah State, there were some looks where I thought, oh, yeah, that's open down the sideline, and then the corner kind of sinks. They call it sinking into the coverage, and he was really good at kind of disguising whether he was going to be in the flat or be down the sideline. And so sometimes you're looking at it as a fan going, geez, that guy's wide open underneath. Why didn't he just throw that? And I'm like, well, in real time, when you have 1.2 seconds to actually make that decision, that felt like the right read to me when I'd see it on the replay. And, yeah, it looks like the dump down's wide open. But they had some interesting looks. I think Bear will learn from that. I think it's going to make him a better quarterback. I think that even with this game, you can't watch Bear Bachmeier and not be somewhat enthused about the future. Yes. Were there some mistakes made? Yes. Was it not the greatest statistical game? Yes. Did they do a good job of keeping him in the pocket and not letting him turn it into a backyard football game and just run around and make plays with his feet? Yes. And that's what good teams are going to try to do to him. Unfortunately, for a lot of defenses in the future, they're not just going to be able to do what Texas Tech did. Texas Tech is really good. They're really good.
I thought from the very first play, and I don't know if A-Rod, if it was designed that way because A-Rod expected the pressure to come from Bear's blind side, or if Bear thought he saw something, so he kind of rolled right to buy himself a little more time. But on that first play, the drop back, the roll, and you see the pressure coming from the left side, it's like they're just going to be hard to block all game long. And all these coaches will tell you it's about blocking and tackling. Like Texas Tech makes that incredibly apparent. And to roll the quarterback away from obvious pressure on the first play, it's like everybody knows what this is about, and everybody knows what you have to do to beat it if you can. I didn't think he was rattled. I thought they just didn't have answers.
Yeah, I think – and look, there was even Chase Roberts, I really like his leadership. He blamed a really, really tough fade throw on himself because he was like, look, if I can touch it, I can catch it. I believe that wholeheartedly as a receiver. And one of the things that BYU's been able to do with Parker Kingston and Chase Roberts is they've been able to come up with some – I really feel like wide receivers in football are like dunkers in basketball. And when you get an amazing dunk or when you get an amazing offensive play that's an alley-oop or something like that in basketball, it can change the momentum of a game. And I think more what Chase Roberts was trying to say is, man, I make that play early in the game and there's some momentum that changes around, and it just changes the mindset. And they weren't able to make that play against Texas Tech. And I think that's an interesting thought, that if a couple of those plays that bounced off fingertips or where they were going over the middle and they just weren't able to convert some of those catches, I'd like to see what happened. I still am not predicting a win for BYU because, man, in the two games that I've watched Texas Tech closely, against University of Utah and against BYU, I'm just like, man, this is a good football team. But I would like to see, Dampier or Bear Bachmeier or Chase Roberts or some of these guys make some plays against them and see if they can't get some momentum going their way and see if dumping the pressure a little bit on Texas Tech doesn't change the game a little bit. But there were some plays to be had. None of them were easy. And that's what great teams do. They don't make any of the great plays that you make easy. They're going to make you work for everything you get.
How about Utah, man? 13th in the college football poll, the playoff poll. That's a lot of respect for that team. Wouldn't you agree?
I do. I think it. Last week when I talked to you guys, I was real high about them making the playoff. And you guys kind of brought me down to earth. And the more I've been thinking about it, I mean, it's a real tall tale to get there, just like you guys were saying. But golly, wouldn't it be fun to see BYU finish out the season undefeated, Utah finish the season undefeated, and just put a lot of pressure on these selection committees to pick two Utah teams to be in the college football playoff? I mean, I think that would be a riot. I know you guys would love it because it's good for business, but I like it just as a follower of high school football and Utah football players and these programs for so long. It's really fun and exciting to me. I've worked with and I get to be around a lot of players on both sides of the ball, so I don't find myself particularly attached to outcomes as I am attached to players that I love to watch and see them succeed. And so it's just fun. And I get to know their parents through some of the things that I do. And just fun to see these Utah kids succeed and play well.
Well, Saturday morning, 10 a.m., with all our teams are playing later in the day, you can watch Notre Dame and Pitt. Because if Notre Dame beats Pitt, that's a playoff berth locked up, and the odds of BYU or Utah getting in go down. I mean, there's other paths, but that's an obvious one for Pitt to beat Notre Dame. And I think the Irish are in if they win that game because they play bad teams after that.
Right. That's kind of the linchpin that I've been talking about, where I've been telling people, like, you got to root for Notre Dame to lose, especially if you're a Utah fan. You do not want Notre Dame to finish the season. And you're right, the only chance is kind of this game.
And Riley, I need your help personally again this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go.
Oh, boy. Buckle up, as Bowler would say.
How much do I get paid for this?
Not enough.
You chose this profession. You have just a professional duty to help people. It's not about the money. You didn't get in it for the money. You're not that kind of person.
I like it when you get a little bit vulnerable and ask for help. It's not your MO, you know? Like, you're not usually reaching out like this. I love
it. So I'm on 114th South, and I'm going west, right?
Yeah.
And there's a car in front of me is in the lane right at State Street, not in the left-hand turn lane, in the lane in which you're going to go down underneath the freeway and continue west. And all of a sudden, the car just stops because it wants to get in the left-hand turn lane. And I literally had to slam on the brakes. The stuff goes flying. The dog practically comes in the front seat. I lay down the horn hard, and I got
because you're from New Jersey.
I got all
upset.
No. Nope. I've been criticizing my family because I'll use the horn too, and I'm not from Jersey.
And I yelled, but fortunately, no digits were separated in the vertical position, so I didn't do that. But is there a better way I could have handled that moment? Can you teach me something? Because I lost it briefly, and then I think, is that really the human being I want to be?
Well, okay, so there's a big difference between emotions and reactions, and then your response. So I'm much more worried about your second thought or your second reaction than I am your first. Because your first is pretty natural. Your second seems to be really, really good right now because you're trying to be a better person. You're trying to figure out how you can do better in those situations, and that's all we can ask. In the military, they have a phrase that says, "Embrace the suck, don't stay in the suck." So you gave suck a big hug.
Man, I live in the suck. I don't embrace it.
I know you do, but what I'm saying is sometimes you got to give it a time limit and just say, okay, I got mad there for a second. Time to move on and be the person I want to be. And give yourself a little bit of grace. I mean, dude, we all love you. We love you, and we like to be around you. So, like, things are going to happen, and we all – look, one of the things that's really hard about my job is if I overreact at a Little League basketball game or something like that, I got everybody going, oh, I thought you were a sports psychologist. Oh, I thought you had it all figured out. I thought you're perfect, So
okay, Jesus.
Right? And sometimes, in my job, I feel like that marriage and family counselor that's divorced, like sometimes I have
oh wow.
I have a lot of really good answers. I haven't quite mastered it yet either. So give yourself a little bit of grace. Love yourself. And move forward and just try and do better next time. You're doing great, man. I mean, dude, just the fact that you had this conversation on air is just a beautiful thing to me. Just beautiful.
Even in his prime, Tiger Woods didn't hit every green. Even in his prime.
Right.
All right, last thing before we let you go. You have an interesting theory. You would advocate a bold coaching hire. Would you care to advocate for it on the air?
Ooh. Yeah.
You just said you're all about the people and you're less about the teams. You just told us that. And there's a person you're very intrigued by and you think it would go very well.
Well, I think there's two, actually.
Oh,
I think there's
okay.
two bold hires, and I work at Weber State, and I think that these guys at least deserve an interview. I think that Ed Larson, who recently retired from Lehigh, and Eric Kerr should be interviewed for the job at Weber State. And the reason why I think that is because both of these guys have been head coaches. Obviously, Eric Kerr, I mean, his record and everything speaks for itself. Ed Larson had 3 state championships in the last 10 years, but has also coached 7 college All-Americans. Every single quarterback he's ever coached in high school has been All-State. He's even had an Elite 11 quarterback. And these guys know how to coach. And so, to me, I think they both merit an interview because I think it would be good, number one, for Weber State to get a pulse for how things are going, just in the high school ranks, how people are feeling about Weber State. Both of those guys understand the Ron McBride and Lavelle Edwards theory of using returned missionaries, Polynesian athletes, and out-of-state athletes that both Kalani and Kyle have replicated so well, and Jay Hill replicated it at Weber State. And I think those are important conversations to have. Do you go all the way and hire them? Maybe, if you like them enough in the interview, but I think they both merit an interview. And so that's where I'm at. These guys are great guys. I know them really well. I know their presence with their players. I know how much their players love them. And I just think it would be, I put myself in Tim Crompton's in his seat, and it's a hard decision because Weber State does have a proud history, and it does have, a history of putting guys in the NFL now, and there's been some good hires there. But at the same time, if you're really trying to make the best call, you sometimes have to put the pressure on the outside and say, what is really the best decision for Weber State? And I think that would be hard for me because I'm terrible at that. I buckle to peer pressure all the time. So I don't envy these ADs sometimes when they have to make a tough decision.
Riley, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Take care, guys.
There is Riley Jensen, our college football
I thought he was Merlin Olsen and you're Dick Enberg. Here you're calling prep games.
We did call one prep game, yes. Maybe there'll be more in the future.
Oh, yeah. Well, Dick and Merlin had to start somewhere.
they did, yeah. Yeah. We'll sell some flowers. And
Tom Brookshire and Pat Summerall had to start somewhere.
Old school. Look at you go. The games of your youth. Yeah, we were at the Skyline Green Canyon game.
Of course you were.
On KSLSports.com.
That's what I heard.
Came right down to a 2-point conversion with 3 seconds left or something like that. It was awesome. Good finish. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's game week for the Cougars, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. Even after their first loss of the season, the Cougars' dream of a spot in the Big 12 title game is still alive and well as they welcome TCU to Provo on Saturday. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Cougar football. Then catch College Football Saturday game day at 10 a.m. with a postgame show immediately following the game on KSLSports.com. Your home for the best coverage of BYU football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The John Watson Northern Utah High School Player of the Week Award honors the best high school football players across the state. This week, Trayden Bessinger from Davis High School wins the award. He recently committed to the Iowa Hawkeyes. He went 40 of 48 for 327 yards and 3 touchdowns as the Dart season ended with a 41-38 overtime loss to Lone Peak in the state quarterfinals. Don't miss KSL Sports coverage of the UHSAA state semifinals at Rice Stadium. Catch the action today and tomorrow beginning at 10 a.m. on KSLSports.com, the KSL Sports app, or here on the KSL Sports Zone. See why new and used car buyers give John Watson Chevrolet more 5-star reviews than any other Chevy dealer in Utah. John Watson Chevrolet, your 5-star Chevy dealer. State semifinal triple headers. Enjoy all the high school football. All right, PK.
Yeah.
Yeah? What do you got, PK?
You tell me.
Well, we've got Utah Mammoth. We've got college football. We've got the Utah Jazz back in action tonight. Ace Bailey back in the starting lineup for a third straight game.
The fixture. The gondola.
The gondola nickname bequeathed upon him earlier today by you in a moment of inspiration.
We're going to ride him to the top.
Nice.
And you can fit several people on there.
The gondola. I can view a group of people who love that nickname, and I can view a group of people who will hate that
Why?
nickname.
Why would you hate that, man?
It puts too much pressure on him. It builds him up too soon. Slow and steady wins the race. Don't put that kind of hype on him. Come on, you know the arguments. They're ageless. They are timeless. Same arguments that have been had over rookies and many sports for many years.
And Bronco Mendenhall will tell you that the expectation that you set will be the one that's met.
Oh, I totally believe that. Set your expectations high, and even if you miss them, you still end up in a really good place. You set your expectations low and you miss them, you end up in a bad place. Set the high expectation, and you're not likely to overachieve your expectations. That's just...
I know, I never have.
Yeah, right. That's just so unlikely.
The gondola.
The gondola.
I'm staying with it.
All right. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.